Empowering You is intended to provide you with information about complementary practices that may enhance your personal wellness journey. Some of these practices have been shown through clinical studies to be effective, others have not. It is entirely up to you to use this information to make the best choices for you as an individual based on your beliefs and healthcare needs. You are encouraged to consult with your primary care physician before engaging in or practicing any complementary services.
Welcome to another segment of Empowering You. Today we have as our guest Loree Walker, who is associated with Facilitated Healing Wellness Resource Center. She's going to be explaining to us today what myofascial release is. And so to you, Loree, welcome.
Thank you.
And so explain to our viewing audience, what is this that we're going to be talking about, MFR?
MFR stands for myofascial release, and it is a very therapeutic form of body work that is very good for many, many issues, primarily chronic pain, but it can go far beyond that as well.
Does it really work?
It does. Sometimes, as with any other practice, every person is different in how they respond to it. But I've had phenomenal results after even just one treatment.
Okay. So what is fascia?
Fascia is a connective tissue system that goes throughout the entire body, all the way down to the cellular level. And it's made up of little microtubules filled with a gelatinous consistency fluid, because we're meant to be fluid moving beings.
Okay.
Now, for many years, the fascia was pretty much ignored and looked at as being just kind of a filler material in the body. More research is being done on the fascial system, and they're learning that there is so much more purpose to the fascial system in our bodies. You know, one thing that they've learned is that our memories are not stored in our brains. Our memories are stored throughout our bodies, and that it's primarily in that fascial system.
Okay.
The other thing that they are finding is that because it stores all memories, when there's any kind of a trauma, whether it be a physical trauma or an emotional trauma, the fascial system will tighten down. And in that tightening process, that fluid gets squished out. So that area becomes stuck and hard and loses its fluidity, and it starts to become almost like concrete. They've learned that the fascial system can put up to 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch on the body.
Oh my goodness.
That's an extreme amount of pressure.
Yes, it is.
Can create a lot of pain.
Yes.
It is not able at this point to be x-rayed or MRI'd or anything like that. You have to do a thorough assessment, and that involves several things, which we'll talk about later. And one of the things that's involved is to check the fluidity of that fascial system. Now, the other thing, they're kind of on the cusp of this, but they're looking into it now in that they're feeling that possibly nerves are actually our secondary form of communication throughout the body.
Okay.
And the fascial system is the first. And if you think about it, we are energy or electrical beings, okay? When your heart stops, what do? They zap it. If you have an irregular heartbeat, they put a pacemaker in. So we are electrical beings. We know that electricity travels more efficiently through something that's more fluid.
Okay.
So if you really start to think about that, it makes sense then that the fascial system, because it's fluid, more fluid in nature, would be more of the primary communicator throughout the body. So there's
see.
research being done on that right now.
Okay. So what kind of conditions can help with this?
It is really good for specifically chronic pain, recuperation from traumatic injury, surgery, any kind of, when we have emotional trauma, we tend to feel it physically.
Yes.
We all have vulnerable areas. Some people have it, they feel it here, or they've had a back injury, and so then their back starts to hurt. So emotional traumas can manifest through us physically. So when we treat the physical discomforts, we're also helping to release some of the emotional trauma as well, in an indirect way. But it does help release emotional trauma as well.
Okay. Then tell us, how does it work?
Well, my teacher and mentor, John F. Barnes, is a physical therapist by trade. And he had a very severe back injury in his late teens, early 20s, and had to have fusion done in the low back, spinal fusion. With his training as a physical therapist, he went through rounds of therapy and did everything he was supposed to do, and was still experiencing a tremendous amount of pain. So he is a very, very intelligent man, and also very in tune with nature. So he started to do some things and noticed that when he put pressure on certain areas and certain spots, it would start to feel better. So he went and started to do some research, and he came across this thing called the fascial system. Very little research done on it, but he really felt that this was something much more than what it was being given credit for. Now, he just turned 73
Oh my
in
goodness.
February.
Great.
So he's been developing this technique for more than 50 years. Now, he pulls in not only his intelligence, but his understanding of nature, and we know that we have fight or flight response. Those are built-in defense mechanisms. They're protections that are
Okay.
built in. We also have the lesser-known response, the freeze response. Okay? So if you think about it, when you feel pain, what does your body do? It tenses up. That's that freeze response. It's going into protective mode.
Like
okay?
when you go to the dentist and don't like the drill.
Yes, exactly. You're freezing. You're
Yeah,
trying to
right.
protect yourself.
Right.
So he takes that into account. And what he has learned through his many years of developing this technique is that now let me clarify. Initially, some of the first techniques that were termed myofascial release really are not true myofascial release. The reason for that is they go in deep and hard.
Okay.
That is deep tissue mobilization. There's a huge difference. Now, there's a time and a place on a very limited basis for deep
Okay.
tissue. What the difference is here is when someone goes in deep and hard into an area that's painful, what is your body going to do?
Tense up.
Yes. So the body is being thrust into a defensive mode. And even though they may think they're getting deep, they're really not. The body is freezing them out. So John takes that into account, and when we approach the body, we approach it gently. It's like sinking your hand into wet sand or soft clay. And you know, if you've ever stood on wet sand on a beach, if you stand there, you're initially on the surface, but after a while, you're sinking in. That's what we do. We sink into the tissue with a very gentle pressure. We're just meeting the resistance that we're getting. We're never forcing. And you know what? The body is allowing us in more deeply because we're not thrusting it into that defense mode. Okay? So we're sinking into that depth barrier,
Okay.
And then many of the techniques that we use that we call a cross-hand technique. So for example, I'd be on the low back, one hand on the sacrum, one hand right above that. Sink in till I hit that depth barrier. And then without sliding on the skin, we're using the skin somewhat as a handle to reach into that fascial system. So we stretch apart just until the brakes go on, and then we hold.
But how do you know when that point is?
You feel it.
You feel
and
it.
it's developed over time. You, as a therapist, we develop our proprioceptor sensations, feelings in
Okay.
our hands, and you become very in tune to that. So then when we hit the end of that elastic barrier, we just hold. We're not forcing, just meeting its resistance. And pretty soon, it opens up. So we're releasing a fascial restriction, allowing the fluids to come back in, releasing that 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, fluids coming back in, making it more fluid and able to move. We're getting rid of the pain.
And that's what people want.
Uh-huh. And many times it takes, it doesn't always happen overnight. Your pain probably didn't happen overnight. Many times people don't know where this pain came from because it's an accumulation of little events throughout their lifetime. It's like splat art, okay?
I see.
So one trauma, nothing major, there it is, another one, and pretty soon you get all of these layers. And you have this pain, and you're like, well, where did that come from? Well, the cause of it may be buried very deep in that splat art.
Okay.
And so we have to peel back layer by layer to the cause.
Okay. But now my next question then would be, why does it work?
Because it doesn't thrust the body into defense.
Okay.
We are getting in more deeply. The other reason it works is because we are not just treating we can treat right where the pain is. But what we do as MFR trained therapists, we also then, there's no set protocol. So we watch the body and
I'm sure each one's is different, huh?
Everyone is different.
Okay.
And listen to what our client is feeding back to us. So I may be working, for example, I was doing a little bit of neck traction. The body likes two things, that compression and traction. So I was doing a very gentle tractioning on a client's neck. And she said, I feel that in my feet. I said, okay, that's how that fascial system works. It's all connected. And then she said, oh, I forgot to tell you, I've been having trouble with plantar fasciitis. So I'm accessing, she was having some neck tension, and we're discovering how that reaches, and she could feel it in her feet. And that's how the fascial system is. It's kind of cobwebbish in nature. It goes throughout the whole, where the restrictions are, you don't know. It's like unwinding a ball of knotted yarn. So you follow where the body tells you to go. Sometimes we get a vasomotor response, an area that becomes very red, and we'll go there. And that's where we work next. We might see if I'm, working on a foot, the hand might start to tremor a little. I go there.
Okay.
It's telling me, okay, I'm over here. Now I need something over here. Our bodies, our feeling intelligence is way more smart than this. So we need to start to get out of our heads a little and tune in to what our body is really telling us. We also, we will find the pain, but we are very attentive to the fact that most times where the pain is not where the cause is. So then we're trained to look elsewhere and follow that yarn or that cobweb to see where the pain originates from.
Okay. What does a typical myofascial release session look like?
When you come in for a session, you are told ahead of time, no lotions on your skin whatsoever. Women should come with shorts and a sports bra, tank top, regular bra. Men, shorts. We do not use covers because I need to see as much of the actual skin as I can to watch for that vasomotor response, for vibrations, so that I know where the body wants me to go next. So you come in, and I look over your paperwork, we talk about what's going on, and then we do a couple of things. I have you do, I do a gait analysis, so I watch you walk. And then we do a postural analysis against a postural chart, and I take pictures.
Okay.
One of my most powerful teaching tools are those pictures. Because of the way we look at the body, it's very different. We look at where those fascial restrictions and pulls are in the body. The other thing we're looking for is that this is the very structural component of this work, in that we start by looking at the pelvis, because our pelvis is our center. And if your pelvis is off, whether it has an anterior or forward rotation, as we call it, or a posterior backward rotation, maybe an upslip, which many times is interpreted as one leg being shorter than the other. I have many people that come in that say they've been told they have one leg shorter than the other. Well, quite honestly, the only way that you can truly know that is if you have x-rays of both legs and very precise measurements are taken. Most people that are told they have one leg shorter than the other, they really don't. They have an upslip. So herein is a problem in when they're told they have one leg shorter than the other, many times a lift is put in there.
Okay.
What's happening?
Yeah.
You're jamming it up into there further. Okay. So we look for that. We also look and see if there's a torque or a twist in the pelvis. Okay. If there's anything off in the pelvis, everything above and below it has to adjust to keep you upright in space. Okay. So another way I tell people to look at it is think about a tent. There's the tent pole. Okay. Is that the only thing that holds that tent up?
No.
No. What do you need?
Outdoors.
You need those tension or guide wires.
Outdoors.
Okay.
Right.
So look at your body like this. Look at your skeleton as that tent pole.
Okay.
Within our bodies, we have a very intricate and sophisticated system of guide wires that kick in automatically to keep us upright in space. So if someone, for example, has that upslip and one leg seems shorter than the other, the body's going to lean that way. And then this is going to go, but wait a minute, I need to be up here. So then this is going to kick in to get you back up here. Automatic guide wires that kick into place. So they may have neck pain, but where did it really start? With an upslip.
Okay.
Okay?
So you can detect all of that, huh?
Yes. We also feel, we check for restrictions in the fascial by palpating. And then when we do that release that I talked about earlier, it's like, for example, if there's been an injury or scar tissue there. Scar tissue, and I work a lot with knee replacement people, so this is a really good example. Okay, so knee replacements. With surgery, you have to have scar tissue. It's necessary. It's absolutely necessary to put you back together. The tissue has, under normal conditions, without any injury or trauma or anything, has a very specific direction. When it's been cut or injured and it heals, it gets kind of cobwebbish. The other thing that can happen is, in the formation of that scar tissue, it can latch on to other things around it, getting it real stuck. And so what I do with knee replacement people is, when they get to their place where, I really don't have any more range of motion, many times they'll go in and have what is called the manipulation, where they put the person back under and they force it and rip that scar tissue. What has to happen after that's done? More scar tissue has to form.
Okay.
So how I look at it, this is the way I do it. If you take a cotton ball, cotton is a very strong fiber. You can take a cotton ball and you can grab it tight and you can rip it apart. It's hard to do. When you do that, you are damaging the integrity of the fibers. Okay? You can take that same cotton ball, grasp it gently, and pull just to where it stops and hold that constant pressure, not forcing it. And pretty soon, what's going to happen?
It's going to stretch.
You're allowing it time for the fibers to not only stretch, but in some cases actually kind of unwind from each other and lengthen. You're not damaging the integrity of the fibers.
Interesting.
So you get greater range of motion without damaging, no more formation of scar tissue. You're keeping the scar tissue that's there intact. It has to be.
Okay. Well, Loree, tell us, how did you become so intelligent in this area? What did you do?
Well, when I finished massage school, most massage therapists, you have to maintain your license, take so many continuing ed units every 5 years. And what a lot of people don't understand is with massage, there's so many different directions that you can specialize in. And this is one of the areas that you can specialize in. And I would get John's flyers, and one time my husband read it. He was laying there on the nightstand, and he read it, and he says, "Is this something you'd like to do?" He says, "It sounds like it really fits in with, you know, your belief system and how the body works and everything." And I go, "Well, yeah," but I said, "Did you look at the price?" Because John's seminars they're very expensive. He's very much in demand. Well, that one was coming out, MFR 1, myofascial release 1, was in Minneapolis in a couple of months from when we had this conversation. And next thing I know, he has me signed up.
Great.
So we went up, and it was beginning of August of '06. And it's a 3-day seminar, and each day he would meet me at lunch, and you kind of get to know a few other therapists that are there, and you go to lunch together, and he would just sit and listen to us talk. And then at night I'd talk about it more, and I'd do some techniques on him that we learned that day. At the end of the second day, one of John's assistants got up, and they have a program that if you pay for 3 seminars, you get a $300 discount. Well, we only signed up for the one. And she said, at the end of the second day, if you've now decided that you would like to take more seminars, you can still sign up for 2 more seminars and get the discount if you sign up by the end of the day tomorrow. Well, he followed me downstairs with the credit card.
They come in handy.
and paid for 2 more.
Okay.
Since 2006, I have now taken every one of John's seminars, which makes me, puts me at he calls an expert level trained level.
Okay.
With myofascial release. To the best of my knowledge, we're a pretty tight-knit group. We have study groups in Madison and Milwaukee. We have a pretty large contingent of us between the Madison and Milwaukee areas. To the best of my knowledge, I believe I'm the only expert level trained John Barnes MFR therapist between Madison and Milwaukee.
Okay.
So it's just kept growing and growing, and it really made my practice shoot off the charts. I now have people that come to see me from Middleton,
Okay.
Lake Geneva.
Wow.
I mean, they drive a distance to come and see me.
Okay.
It's just been such a phenomenal experience, and the ability that I've had to help people reduce pain in a very short amount of time. One gal was referred to me by a physical therapist with 20 years of chronic upper back pain, had been through everything. And she came in, and one nice thing about what I do is, because my mission statement is to empower you to care for yourself, I do the assessment, I treat, and with almost every treatment technique that I do, I give a modified version of it for you to do at home so you can continue your treatment.
Okay.
And then instead of having to tell you to come back in 3 times a week for 6 weeks, I can say, you go home, you do your homework, come back in a month. If you have questions in the meantime, call me.
Okay.
If they do their homework, they're going to continue to see results and feel results. Now, this particular gal is a snowbird and couldn't come back in the 4 weeks, so it was 6 or 8 weeks. And she walked back in my door and she said, I would not have had to give my husband the handicap in golf and I still would have beat him. And she just said, I can't believe how much better it is. And I said, just out of curiosity, how much better? And she thought for a second and she said, 80%. That was after one treatment. We had not done the second treatment yet.
Isn't that fabulous?
That, to me, just, wow.
Yeah.
That, I empowered her. I didn't do all of that. I gave her techniques that she could use to treat herself.
Yes.
Now, when she walked out my door after the first treatment, it wasn't at 80%. She brought it to 80%.
Okay, yeah. Because she listened to what she was to do. Well, that is really an interesting profession. So tell us where you're located and a phone number that you could be reached at.
Yeah, I'm the owner of Facilitated Healing Wellness Resource Center. We're at 1517 Doctors Court, and you can reach us at 920-262-2954.
And before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewing audience on this subject? Because it's very interesting.
It is, and it really is, I guess, authentic healing. And part of it is, a huge part of what I do is not just teaching the techniques, but bringing awareness to people in their everyday lives. And now they can say, oh, you know, it's like repetitive use injury things, and just bringing that awareness and being in tune with what you're doing, because you can help yourself be with less pain and be a more well person just by being aware.
Yes, right. So on behalf of all of us in the studio, thanks for watching today.